I always give you guys credit, the effort that's put into watching a movie in a movie theater, but then also remembering everything, like jotting everything down, remembering key points and all that stuff. So
we don't write shit down. We're stream of consciousness.
No, we don't actually. In fact,
and you're even better, man, because my memory is like shot, dude.
That's why he edits so much, because we are stream of conscious and we just go for it, man.
Yeah, it's crazy. But you know what?
Appreciate you guys.
You ready to jog those memories?
Oh yeah,
yes.
Really, like with a sledgehammer.
Jon, if I start talking about Jeff Bridges and a plane, just stop me.
Just say wrong show, buddy.
Wrong fucking show. All right. Time to watch Skip Plus.
Hey, you want to watch some TV or something?
Skip it. Well, I'm getting ready to watch a video.
Really? What?
Nothing but foul language and toilet humor.
I'm disgusted and repulsed and I can't look away.
I need these things! I need these things! Tell me, do you want to go? Where it's coming on the color line.
Oh, no way, Jose.
This just in, go to hell!
This conversation can serve no purpose anymore.
Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it!
Hello, friends and listeners. Welcome to a brand new episode of Watch Skip Plus. We're a movie review podcast with a lifestyle twist. That twist is that after we review a new streaming or theatrical film, we give you a bonus review. We talked about the mini Me You and How to Train Your Dragon last time. So if you're watching us on Spotify or listening to us on Spotify, and if you are watching us on YouTube, please follow, like, subscribe, leave reviews. My name is Cupcake. I'm joined by my co-host, Mike the Wildebeest, and we actually have a special guest today. We talk about him a lot during our outro or pod roll, and he is our YouTube brother in arms, John Horgan, who hosts the YouTube channel And Now for something a bit different. Did I get that right?
Jose, you've been coming on the show for over a year now.
You've been on the show for how long? And I still can't.
I'm totally fucking with you. It's a little bit different, and everybody gets that name wrong.
Monty Python.
And the funny thing is, like, I just go with the Monty Python thing now because everyone thinks that's where I got it from. And honestly, I didn't get it from that. Like, maybe on some sort of subconscious level I did, but now I just kind of roll with it. Oh, yeah, it's a Monty Python thing. I just kind of ripped off Monty Python. But it's now for something a little bit different. And trust me, everybody fucks it up. I've even fucked it up, so. If you're the host of the show and you occasionally screw up, you got problems, but that's okay.
It happens, right? But if you want to just really quickly introduce yourself to our viewers and listeners.
So, basically, I guess a little over a year ago, I started the show, and the premise was basically to kind of like spotlight films that I feel like probably don't get talked about enough, don't get enough love. And films that I'm passionate about. Obviously, I'll break that mold and talk about films that are mainstream every once in a while, or we do a spotlight project with you and Mr. Justin, where we focus on the work of a specific actor. Next year, hopefully we'll do a specific director. That's the next step. But, but that's the general formula. I really wanted to put my heart into talking about films that I feel like I love, and more importantly, films that aren't just talked about enough. And then luckily, I've had really good guests. And then within the last 2 or 3 months, our good mutual friend, Mr. Jon, recording himself, great guy. I had him on for a show a couple months ago. And I felt like we had like a really good connection. So I reached out to him. I said, hey, listen, do you want to like try this out, see how it goes, and see if it works? And we did that. And I feel like we're at a place where we're starting to rebuild the show. He brings a really good personality, like all my guests. He definitely can do some extra charms like you do with your editing, so it looks wonderful. And it's always great to just have a conversation. So that's the very long answer to your very short question.
It's all good. All good. Yeah. Excellent. And I'm actually doing double duty. I'm going to be recording later today with you, actually.
Yeah,
So
I'm gonna talk some Jeff Bridges. So
we're
I
going to
can't
talk
wait.
some Jeff Bridges. Absolutely. Mike, how are you doing?
I'm doing awesome. I always got to give a shout out to John, who kind of helped me cut my teeth and talking about film more on a kind of a weekly or bi-weekly basis. So I love and appreciate you, John, that you and Nance have really, your chemistry is awesome. I watched
Yeah.
your last show and I thought you guys really do have a good flow. So great
Yeah.
job.
You guys are absolutely wonderful, and it's been a great journey. It's
Oh,
good to talk about the big films, but it's good to talk about the small films. And you guys kind of run the gamut, and I'd say that in itself is really impressive. And then, of course, the chemistry you guys have is wonderful. So it's been a pleasure.
what chemistry? Thank you. Thank you, John. Very kind
We're
words.
just a couple of balded beauties. We just get along. We love to talk.
That's a motherfucker.
Careless wonders. Yes, we are.
Why do you think I wear this?
Trifecta. Yes, exactly.
I don't get the haircut every week. I got to wear the hats, the patches. I had the soul patches spread throughout the head, the dome.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Speaking of a soul, maybe not a great segue, but what are we reviewing, Mike? What are we reviewing this week?
We are reviewing M3GAN or M3GAN 2.0.
Yes. Did anybody experience what I experienced at the theater, which was everybody going into F1 with Brad Pitt while I was sneaking into M3GAN 2.0 with like virtually no one else? No, I kid. Actually, I had a full theater, which was nice, So let's start with below the line and above the line. I'm actually going to take this on. So here we go. M3GAN 2.0. This is actually the sequel to M3GAN. I believe that was released about 2 years ago. Our director is Gerard Johnstone. Maybe it's pronounced Johnston. I'm not sure. He's a New Zealand writer-director, mainly in comedy. He started creating and writing a show called The Jackie Brown Diaries, and not Quentin Tarantino. Jackie Brown, Jaquie, maybe, is believe it or not, a TV personality. And then she became a news reporter. And then this is super weird. Kind of like what James Van Der Beek did with his television show on ABC, his comedy show. But the Jackie Brown Diaries was actually like a fictionalized, like, biopic sort of herself. Johnstone also did a horror film called Housebound, a horror comedy film. That's what brought James Wan's attention. And James Wan is the producer, the founder of Atomic Monster Studios. Obviously, he's behind Saw, he's behind the Conjuring series, and Atomic Monster and Blumhouse actually merged a few years ago. And so, although they remain separate titles and separate studios, this film is not only a Blumhouse, but it's also an Atomic Monster production from James Wan. I should also note that one of our producers is Allison Williams, who is the star of this, or the lead, one of the leads in this. So Gerard Johnstone, he's actually written and directed this, and these are from characters created from the first movie written by Akilah Cooper, who is a horror veteran, loves horror. She wrote *Malignant* for James Wan, which I don't know, people are still, I think, divided on, but I certainly love that movie. Any thoughts on Gerard Johnstone? John, have you seen Housebound?
So actually, I'm going to be the first to admit, guys, I hadn't seen M3GAN. And when you guys said, hey, do you guys want to cover? I'm like, listen, any chance to hang out with Mike, any chance to hang out with you, Jose, is always a pleasure, dude. I miss being on the show. I miss having you guys on the show. It's been a while. But I will admit listen, I will say this, I'm not a hypocrite. Some of us are snobs at times. I like a lot of trash, so there's no reason for me to be a snob at all. I mean, I watch Trauma and Charles Band and that kind of stuff, but I had it in my head for some reason, like, oh, a fucking killer doll. Just we fucking need another fucking. How many of these fucking, killer doll, evil robot,
Chucky, Annabelle, all of that crap.
I had this kind of snobbery kind of attitude towards the film, which is why I kind of avoided it. But I bit the bullet and I bought the Blu-ray for the first film, and I was actually really, really impressed. And then I watched Housebound, and fuck, my God, I kick myself for not seeing that. that's probably, and I'm not exaggerating, that's probably one of the best films to come out in 10 years. Easily.
Yeah.
I think in 2014, you got the horror, you got the comedy, you got the drama, you have every element. You have the thriller elements, you have the humanity, you have all these wonderful elements, and it's all gelled together in this absolutely mind-blowing film. I watched it on Tubi. 5 minutes later on Amazon, purchase, because I had to have it in the collection. So, and then of course, the movie we're talking about today. So I just recently became familiar. I couldn't find the television series, the Jackie Brown series, because I was going to try to watch that, but I don't think it's available in the States, or maybe it's just kind of hard to come by.
No, and then he also, jogging my memory, he also rebooted a very popular New Zealand comic book called Terry and the Gunrunners. But I don't think you can find that either. I personally love anything from New Zealand because that's where I would love to retire. I love that country. I think the people are just beautiful and wonderful. So yeah, I'm happy to support any New Zealand directors. Mike, you watched Housebound. What did you think?
Yeah, well, for me, I'm like you. I love New Zealand. My love of horror comedy comes from Peter Jackson and seeing some of that crazy, wacky shit he used to do. So for me, this was, he was right up my alley with Housebound. And then M3GAN, it's one of those that the more you watch it, the more I appreciated it. The more I got the comedy, and I kind of felt like he pulled back on the comedy and horror elements a little bit compared to Housebound. And we'll talk about how he does it even more. But I kind of find his sentiments very similar to someone else that we like and that we cover a lot, who's done the Happy Death Day movies, Chris Landon. So I feel, he's very similar in his writing style and the type of projects he likes to tackle.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving on, we have our cinematographer is Toby Oliver. Speaking of Happy Death Day, Oliver is an Australian cinematographer. He actually shot Happy Death Day as well as Insidious: The Last Key, and surprise, a weird connection with Allison Williams. He actually shot Get Out for Jordan Peele. And so obviously he's now in LA. Other films that he's shot are Wolf Creek 2, obviously from his Aussie days, Incarnate, which was terrible. Not the cinematography, the movie itself. Happy Death Day 2, Fantasy Island, which one of my favorites from Jeff Wadlow. And then Day Shift, the J.J. Perry sort of like 8711 action thriller with like Jamie Foxx and vampires. Really fucking awesome. I love that. Yeah, totally. So he obviously knows his genre. John, your thoughts on Toby Oliver's cinematography?
He also did a great comedy that people don't talk about enough. It's on Hulu called Barbara and Star Go to Villa d'Este Del Mar, I want to say.
Vista Del Mar. Yeah. So that was actually, I think it was a Netflix show.
Yeah. It was like a weird, quirky kind of, but good, very good. Yeah.
Yeah, lots of cult status for that one, especially considering it has Jamie Dornan, who I think at the time had sort of was like, I'm over the 50 Shades thing. I'm trying to do Belfast and like these bigger dramatic roles. And then he crops up in that and he's hysterical. He's great. Yeah. Our music is by Chris Bacon. I don't think he's related to Kevin Bacon, but whatever. I don't know. But he's a 4-time Primetime Emmy Award nominee. He actually did music composition for Smash, which is a huge cult show for a lot of my theater friends. It actually became a Broadway show. Sadly, it's closing, so just like the TV show, it didn't catch on. He's also scored Bates Motel, Wednesday, and then he won the Emmy for Outstanding Original Main Title Theme Music for The Tick, which talk about another underappreciated comedy series that I love. Bacon. He brings home the bacon. It's great. Let's get to the cast. All right, so I didn't know this. I don't know how I didn't know this, and I should have known it, but M3GAN is actually played herself by two different people. Amy Donald is the physical M3GAN. She has a dancer background, gymnastics, acrobatics. So obviously great pick for the original M3GAN. She can do all that, like, you know, running on all fours and doing the dancing and stuff like that. And then her voice is done by a lady named Jenna Davis. So I didn't actually put that together. Allison Williams returns as sort of the surrogate mother here for the Katie character. She is the daughter of Brian Williams, who many people know if you watch the news. He was an anchor. I think he doesn't do news anymore. He retired. But Williams, we know from Get Out as well as the HBO series Girls. This is weird. I think Allison Williams is super, super gorgeous. But I'm not entirely sold on her acting. And I think it's the same way that Mike feels about Dakota Johnson. Just a really pretty face, but the delivery is just the same each time. Although the delivery is different for Allison Williams. She seems to talk really quickly, right? Like, but you know, the connection of the whatever for the and she just like does that really quickly. So not entirely sold on her. I don't know, Mike, how do you feel about her? You're nodding. You feel the same way?
I'm kind of there with you. I thought that she was one of the weak points in Girls, which I really liked. She just grated me, her character and she's not much better in these films. I don't know. I'm not a fan. I think she fits in Get Out because she's a two-time biatch. Her character is, but I'm not a fan.
You're not feeling it, John?
I don't think she can act.
Yeah, well, let me also say this: all the characters on Girls, totally grating. I was watching that first season. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to continue watching these people. But John, Allison Williams, what do you think?
You know, I'll be perfectly honest. When it comes to this cast, the only one I was really familiar with was Jermaine Clement. The rest of them, I honestly, and I try to stay well versed even in the indie stuff, but I wasn't familiar with the rest of the cast. So I thought she was okay. Like you guys, I'd say that it was a little bit kind of flat. You know, I think we were there. I was there more for the relationship, the whole dynamic of that. I think that's what made the performance work for me a little bit. But I can definitely see the flat delivery that you guys are talking about. I definitely felt that for sure.
Oh yeah. Moving on, we've got Katie, is played by Violet McGraw. She's an American child actress. So she had little bit parts in like Love and then Ready Player One, but many will probably know her as, I think her character's name was Nell in The Haunting of Hill House. Hill House, that's the Mike Flanagan series. She also has a weird habit because in that film, she played a younger version of an adult actress on the show. She has played the younger version of Yelena Belova in Black Widow and Thunderbolts, and then obviously in M3GAN 2.0. But she's also been in some other like films like Doctor Sleep and then Separation. How do we feel about young Violet McGraw, John?
I liked her. You know, I thought she was fine. You know, I really didn't like you guys. The only one I really thought was a little bit weaker was what's her face. I can't. We just talked about Allie, whatever the hell her name was.
Allison Williams. Yeah.
She was the only one that I felt like was really flat. Even like someone like you look at like Jermaine Clements, he plays those type of obnoxious characters that like swarmy, you know, like so he was fine, really. But Violet was good. You know, she's actually going to be in a movie that I've been on my radar for a while, The Life of Chuck, which I can't wait. That's the newest Stephen King station. She's a part in that too, so I'm really looking forward to that.
Nice, Mike.
I haven't been impressed with her in what I've seen, and she definitely is not an Alfie Williams like we reviewed in the last episode. She just was obnoxious to me as well. So
I think she needs more time. Also, this is so bad. Like I'm criticizing the entire cast, but
the cast is not great.
She is a graduate of what I would call the lip acting school because when she talks, like she does this thing with her mouth and it's like the lip, and it was so distracting. The entire time it was like, what's happening to her mouth? Does she need surgery? I don't know.
She has to show her mouth motions with the way she speaks, that kind of acting. And then when you smile, you talk real big like this. it's too overexpressive. It's almost like theater acting 101. You have to be able to pull that back when you're on screen. So you could tell she had some theater acting, but there's a difference.
It's too much. It's too much.
Yeah.
There's an actress who is the queen of lip acting, Kerry Washington. If you've ever seen Scandal, I handled it. Like her anyway, I love Kerry Washington. She is
Hilary Swank as well.
Oh yes,
Hilary Swank is a mouth actor.
Definitely. Moving on to somebody who has a great mouth. Just kidding. Jermaine Clement. We've mentioned him already, so I might as well jump to him. New Zealand actor, comedian. I didn't realize this. He started in a kung fu comedy New Zealand series called Tongan Ninja. So that was the first show that he was actually on. Many stateside will know him from the hit HBO series, which of course is a New Zealand series, by the way, Flight of the Conchords, for which he also released albums, went on tours for.
Love it.
He's also been big on the indie scene, not only New Zealand, but here. So Gentlemen Broncos, Men in Black 3, not that that's an indie. And then the BFG. He also does a lot of voice work as well. Patrick, these films, Avatar, The Way of Water. But again, many people will definitely know his collaboration with Taika Waititi, What We Do in the Shadows, which became that great FX TV series. I love Jermaine Clement. I think anything that he's in, I just absolutely love and eat up. I think he, like a lot of comedians, I think some people maybe don't like his shtick sometimes, but I'm here for it and I love it, and I love a lot of his voice work. John, what do you think about Jermaine? You must be a huge fan.
I love to laugh. I love talking comedy, and he knows his wheelhouse and he stays in his wheelhouse, which is comedy. And it's kind of like that one actor, Flula Borg.
Oh my God, yeah.
Listen, you can say what you want, but he knows his wheelhouse, and he does exceptionally well in the wheelhouse. And I feel like with Jermaine has showed a lot of versatility, and he's done some really interesting films. Even an earlier film, Eagle versus Shark, doesn't get talked about.
So crazy.
Another just bizarre, weird little comedy. He's got range, but he knows what people are used to seeing him in, and he usually tends to stay in that area. I love him. I think he's great.
Nice. Yeah. Playing Amelia, if you've seen the trailers, Megan's direct nemesis in this, Ivana Sakno, she's actually Ukrainian. Interesting tidbit about her. She is from Kyiv, and she obviously was involved in activism when the Russian conflict started with Ukraine. She serves, I believe, on a board that sort of helps to prosper education and outreach in the Ukraine. But the interesting tidbit is that she actually refuses to play Russian characters. In fact, she broke a Netflix contract allegedly because they wanted her to play a Russian, and she says, I don't do Russians, right? Stateside, after she actually was discovered at a casting workshop where she was trying to learn English, actually. And so then she moved to the States. She played Nadja, the assassin in The Spy Who Dumped Me, which I absolutely loved that. Such a great feminist actioner along the lines of Charlie's Angels. And I'm talking about not only the Drew Barrymore Charlie's Angels, but also Elizabeth Banks' Charlie's Angels. She also played Sheen Hati on Ahsoka, so many will know her from the Star Wars universe. And then she also got started on High Fidelity on Hulu. That was one of her first U.S. roles. And then, of course, Cadet Victoria in Pacific Rim Uprising. People dog that movie, but I got to tell you, I love that sequel. More Pacific Rim, please. It's great.
Yeah.
Speaking of operating in their wheelhouse, they knew what people came for, right? Mecha, kaiju. Let's just go with it. John, Ivana Sakno, any experience with her? Do you remember her from stuff?
These are all things I've been wanting to see the High Fidelity show. I haven't gotten around to it. I don't have Disney Plus, so I got to lay out some bucks because there's enough stuff on that channel now that I probably will delve into. But I want to see both things. Now, like yourself, I have seen Pacific Rim Uprising. I enjoyed it. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I like the first one a little better, but it was still an enjoyable sequel, and she was good in the part that she had. So yeah, no, I don't have a lot to go on with my experience with her as an actress, but the thing I did see her, and I thought she was enjoyable, and she did a pretty good job. So
Nice.
She stole the show for me in this. As we were dogging all the actors, what she did for her role, she was great. I thought she blew it away. I thought she was a robot. She was great in this.
The makeup is so good on her.
She is awesome. The look, the way that her delivery was perfect.
Oh yeah, I don't know if they were doing like digital tinkering with her skin, but yeah, she was a great robot. I'm gonna address a couple more people and criticize one more actor. Sorry.
I know. Sorry, people.
Aristotle Athari, or maybe it's Atari, but he has a role in this too. I didn't realize, because I've stopped watching Saturday Night Live, but I didn't realize he was on Saturday Night Live. So many may know him because he is on Saturday Night Live, also from things like Hacks, Silicon Valley. And the only criticism I have of him is that he's so beautiful and androgynous that the whole time I just kept thinking he should probably play Michael Jackson in a biopic. Like, put a wig on him, he could play Michael Jackson. So the whole film I was just like, it's Michael Jackson. I'm looking at Michael Jackson. Anybody have experience with Aristotle, Mike?
I thought he was awful in this. And I've seen him on SNL, and I think he's okay. But again, he's very much one note. It's almost like seeing young David Spade, not really knowing how to act quite yet. And that's what I felt like in this. He's very one note. I could tell he was a comedian. I could tell he comes from that world. And I didn't believe him. And I knew exactly what, going into the twist, exactly what he was and who he was. So yeah, I thought he was terrible. Terrible.
Yeah. What'd you think, John?
I didn't really have much experience with him either. I'm not going to lie. I had seen Silicon Valley, but it's been a while since I've seen it. And honestly, like yourself, Mike, I just kind of, they didn't give him a lot to work with. He was basically the boyfriend role in this movie until a certain thing happens, which we'll get into in spoilers. But there's not much to go on. And then when there is the big spoilery twist, which we'll get to, it's kind of like, oh, okay. You know what I mean? Like it just, there wasn't anything there that like drew me to him as an actor, or that said, hey, I'm interested in this particular character. And I feel like when you have a film like this, or any film, every character needs their moment to shine. And I think when he was finally given a moment to shine, he didn't do anything with it. So yeah, I don't know, kind of a dud for me when it came to him on this one.
Yeah,
and then a friend that really loves the movie Molly. I have a friend that loves the movie Molly and Max in the Future, and he's told me you've got to see that because he's really good in it. I think Zosha Mamet, who's also in Girls, is in that as well. So I've had people who say, don't judge him. He is funny. He is good with the right material, but I just didn't think it was this.
Sure.
So last person, another on my future husband list, Brian Jordan Alvarez. I don't know why, I just find him completely sexy. I also think he's very funny. He's an American actor, comedian, filmmaker, openly gay. He's done a lot of like gay indie stuff, gay sketch comedy. Many will know him from TV roles on Will and Grace, Life in Pieces, Jane the Virgin. So a lot of TV and comedy work. And most importantly, though, is he had a Hulu show recently called English Teacher, which was downright hysterical. John, if you love comedy, jump on English Teacher. It is.
I'm on this.
I got asthma attacks watching that show. I was laughing so hard, and he created that show and wrote that show. And of course, he's reprising his role from the first M3GAN. I thought he was a standout in the first M3GAN because he's hysterical. I mean, between him and Ronnie Chu, I think it was, I was like, oh my God, who's chewing, the scenery here more? But I love Brian Jordan Alvarez. Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, I think he's hilarious. He, again, is one of the highlights in this as well as the first film. I love his whole fear of M3GAN the entire time. Every time M3GAN's around him, he's just like, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God.
Yeah.
He's great. He's really funny.
He's so good. John?
Yeah, no, he did a great job with what he had to work with. You know what I mean? And definitely funny. He worked well with the other casts. You felt like the chemistry between him working with the group. So yeah, no, I definitely good job.
Nice, nice. Also, somebody leaked his pics, so if you're interested, just Google away, folks. Okay.
We have to talk about some appendage of some actor in every
some
episode.
weenus. We got to keep the theme going after 28 years later.
28 dongs later.
28 dongs later. Oh my God, my favorite. I love that new catchphrase. Anywho, all right. So, spoiler-free thoughts. Here we go on M3GAN 2.0 or M3GAN, which I don't know. It's kind of crazy. I'm going to start with our guest, John Horgan, our YouTube brother. What did you think? Spoiler-free thoughts on M3GAN 2.0.
Okay, so going into the movie, like I said, I was pleasantly surprised by the first one just because of what my ignorant, but preconceived notions of what I thought the first one was going to be. And when I watched the trailer for this one, I was like, oh, okay, I kind of see what they're going for. A little bit of like Terminator and then Terminator 2, like in the first Terminator, Arnold's the bad guy. Now in this Terminator 2, he's kind of become the good guy. They're stealing a little bit from that. But what makes this film interesting and definitely worth watching, in my opinion, I'll play my hand early, is that they do a couple interesting twists that make it just more than just that. And I think that's what makes the difference in the film, because like you guys said, there are a couple of good performances, but there are unfortunately a couple of performances that are a little bit on the weaker side. And I think by adding enough twists and adding enough personality to the film, it makes it a film that is in my opinion, worth watching. Because I think there's enough that they could have just gone a traditional sequel movie and just kind of had like, okay, the killer robot's back and she's still pissed off. Well, she's still got a little bit of attitude. She's still a little bit angry. But like I said, she evolves. And that's what I like about this film. They don't just go with the same generic formula. The character evolves. All the characters really evolve. And I think that's what part of the appeal is, and that's what makes it interesting, at least for me as a viewer. If they didn't go with the same boring routine sequel that a lot of sequels do when it comes to film, is just follow the same routine of just keep on pumping the same thing out over and over, the same generic thing. I feel like this one had some little touches like that, which made it interesting. And I think from a plot perspective, I think they really did some interesting stuff. You could see how Gemma, it's 2 years later, Gemma's kind of turned off a little bit from the AI. She realized how dangerous things are, and now she's working on a hardware that essentially assists people, and it's like a robot ear, like for people, I guess, that were handicapped and stuff like that. She's going in a different direction, and then of course we get this whole idea of this killer robot that appears, and we think that this killer robot's working for the government, and they get caught up in this whole game again, where effectively they have to reboot, our titular character, M3GAN. And it just becomes a really good adventure film / action. It's more action, sci-fi, with very little emphasis on horror, in my opinion, compared to the original. And they really just do a good job, for the most part, of evolving the characters and making you kind of drawn into the world and saying, okay, we're going to do something different. And it may be not what you expect, but we're going to do something different that's going to make you want to follow these characters and root for these characters and watch their next journey. And I think, in my opinion, they do a really good job of doing just that. But those are my general thoughts. Obviously, when we get into spoilers, I'll talk a little bit more about thoughts and stuff like that. I don't know.
Yeah, let me ask you this. You've talked about the fact that when we talk about horror franchise, right? Friday the 13th Part 2, Child's Play Part 2, they followed the same formula.
Sure.
My question to you is, do you think fans of the first film will get a bizarro sense of whiplash from the fact that this film is so different from the first.
They might, but it's weird, right? So like here's the thing. Like if you're a sci-fi, like, and I don't use the word nerd like in a disparaging way, but if you're a sci-fi nerd, you're probably a horror nerd, you're probably a comic book nerd, you're probably a video game nerd, you're probably play D&D. So like if you like the one genre, there's a good chance that you're going to like the other genre. You might be thrown off a little bit, but I honestly can't say by watching the trailer that I didn't expect they were going in a different direction. Even by watching the trailer, I automatically, like, the first thought that came to my mind was like, okay, they're going for Terminator 2. They're using Terminator 1, Terminator 2 as their kind of like their basis, and then they're putting their own twist on it. So, I mean, some fans might get that whiplash, but I honestly don't feel like that whiplash is something that's deserved, because I feel like you are getting a sense of that unless you didn't watch the trailer at all and you're just walking in blind. I mean, there are elements, of course, of the first film in the second film, but I do feel like they're trying to distinguish itself from the first film. And I think part of the reason they're trying to do that is because they're trying to avoid the formula. Because let's face it, no matter which franchise it is, whether it's Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Halloween's, even if you love those franchises, we all get to a certain point. It's like, I love Freddy, right? But at a certain point, all right, Freddy's going to say some snarky remarks and kill these kids in some ridiculous way. We're all going to love it. But at a certain point, you're like, okay, well, let's do something a little bit different. Even if that's what people love from that formula, that you still want them to take that formula, keep some of the important things from that formula. But as a greedy fan, I also want them to kind of twist it and give me something a little different too. I want that chocolate shake with a little strawberry in there and some whipped cream and maybe some vanilla ice cream too. I don't want just the chocolate shake. I want some different stuff thrown into the mix.
It's a good analogy.
Now, again, there are some people that are going to watch this film and they're going to go right off the get-go, it's not exactly what the first film is, and I want that fix, that particular fix. And if I don't get that particular fix, well, then this movie's a piece of you-know-what, and I'm done with it. I think those people are kind of close-minded. That, again, I'm not trying to judge anybody, but I think that's just a very close-minded way of thinking. If you have an original filmmaker with a voice that has something fun and interesting to say, and is going to give you an entertaining ride, then support that filmmaker. I mean, like I said, of the three films by this guy, in my humble opinion, I said it already, Housebound is absolutely fucking genius. These two movies are both, I think, entertaining and definitely well worth watching. So I'm going to watch what this guy does. For better or worse, I'm there for the ride. He sold me as a filmmaker. So
nice. Okay, so one last question, short answer, and then we're gonna jump to Mike. I'm like, just a short. No, we love the long answer, but I think to actually answer this question, we're going to do it better in spoilers. But so my question to you is, does this film suffer from one twist too many?
I thought about that walking out, right? And I do think I will agree with you. I think they keep on pushing it a little bit too far. I think, like I said, the one in the trailer, that's obvious. I don't think anyone can actually say they don't see that coming, the Terminator 2 reference. But I do think you're right. By the time we get to the end of the film, they do just keep on changing and changing and changing. And it's just like, okay, you're going a little too far. So I can definitely see that. I don't think you have to do that many. It's like the horror movies with the fake out endings. You don't need 20 fake out endings.
Right.
Maybe one or two, but not 20.
See, that was short.
Yeah, for me, that was short. I get my mouth, like I said, I get my mouth running and I'm like,
That was good. It was good. All right. Mike, spoiler-free thoughts. M3GAN 2.0.
Well, it was better than Ballerina, but not by much. We'll start there.
I thought this was right up your alley.
I was excited for this. I was so ready for this. And when it started, I was laughing my ass off. I had so much fun for 30 minutes of this. Again, going back to the actress who plays Amelia, perfect. I thought she was great. She starts the movie off with a bang. I'm into it. We bring back this whole cheesy, Jon did a great job of kind of capstoning the plot. Alison Williams' character comes in and starts blabbing at us. telling us how she's changed everything. The annoying daughter comes in. The movie loses steam halfway into it. It tries too hard to be funny. It's slapsticky. It's over the top. It's tonally a fucking mess. 2 hours long? Fuck you, dude. You need to be 90 minutes long. This is
I
too
knew that was
long.
coming. I knew it was coming.
Long. I was ready to get the fuck out. And then 30 minutes too long, at least. And it is just tonal whiplash, one scene after another. And you're a pussy soft ass. Get gory and get R. These movies are too pussy. They need to be R. I am sick and tired of trying to make these children's movies. I took my teens to this. They hated it. They despised this thing worse than I did. This movie is corny. It is cheesy. It is silly. I wanted to have fun, but it just didn't work. If it would have been cut by 20 minutes, maybe I would have had more fun. But gosh, this thing is just atrocious acting, really bad dialogue. And I know what he's trying to go for, but it's almost like he doesn't quite. It's like he's lost his edge. Like with Housebound was edgy. Housebound is funny. Housebound is dark. It goes with that R rating. These two movies are just too soft. He doesn't quite. It's like there's an unrated version of M3GAN that's more bloody, that has F words. That works. If you've seen that version is actually my preferred, and I purchased that version online. That's the better version of the film. But what he's releasing theatrical, just they're too soft. This should have been more like Upgrade, where you play with the gore, you play with the blood, you play with the shock factor. There is no shock factor. We go back to some scenes from the first that are fun, like acting like a rabid beast and jumping and attacking. There was one little throwback to that. There was a silly bit going back to the singing from the first. That made me laugh quite a bit. So there is some really good comedic works that, comedic bits that work, but he's no Chris Landon. He can't flip the way that Landon did with Happy Death Day 1 and then turning it into a sci-fi action comedy in 2. That worked. This did not for me. It's almost like they gave him an open checkbook to do what he wanted with it, and Jon Stone went too far with it. Almost needed someone to kind of peel him back a little bit, and he needed a co-writer. I think the script needed another go-around or two. But, like John said, it is funny, and it is exciting, and it's different, and that I enjoyed. But there's just a few technical things. You got to be able to, in the editing room, you got to create your film there, and you got to know when you have to cut shit out. Not everything is funny, and some things just really, there's times when you're excited and then boom, it goes flat. I mean, that whole sequence with the song, like that starts fun, like funny, but that went on forever. Like, who really cares? Who really cares about Williams' like relationship with M3GAN? But the brilliant stuff, though, is basically how M3GAN's not just a body anymore, how she's omnipotent. I loved that bit where we kind of play, we see her popping up in screens, and there's a little funny bit at the end where she kind of comes back. So I like those little bits, and there are things I like, but this is a mess. This is everything but the kitchen sink thrown into a film, and it's way too long. I wanted to love this, but like Mickey 17, this is going to be a soft skip for me.
Wow. Okay. Couple follow-up questions. If people explode, if there was like zombie dicks and people exploded into like blood clouds, but the plot was still the same, would that change it for you?
I would have more fun with it, like I did with Monkey. That's what the Monkey was for me, and I enjoyed that. And I think that this could have benefited with more edge, because as it is, it feels neutered. It feels like a neutered dog. It's not quite action. The action isn't tight enough. The action's kind of sloppy. I don't feel like, as an action guy, the choreography and it's sloppy. It's more jokey. So it's like this movie focuses more on the humor than it does on the action or the gore or the scare. So what we end up is a really silly, spoofy action B movie that just wants to be exactly that, just a B movie that we would have probably rented in the 80s and had fun with. But he tries too hard to make it silly.
So that was my whiplash question, in some ways to John, which was, Mike, you came for the gore, and you got something completely. You got basically Charlie's Angels with robots,
Yeah, with more camp, more cheese, more corn. My kids called it a cringe fest.
Oh no!
Yeah. I had to take my one son's phone away because he just could not. He was like, "Dad, this is the most boring thing I've ever sat through."
Oh, wow.
It was
Actually,
and
you
I,
know what? Like I said, everybody was going into the Brad Pitt movie, which is poised to make, I think, 80 million this weekend. And this, which got a B plus cinema score, which is actually above the first one, I think it's only going to make 10 million, and they were projecting 30 or 35. So I don't know. I don't know. But
it's tonal whiplash. It's just your head spinning like The
yeah.
Exorcist. I just felt
I mean,
like
let me just
it
say,
couldn't keep the heads straight.
these executives, when they market these movies, they don't sometimes put enough thought into when they're releasing them, because there's no way that that Brad Pitt movie, even with the marketplace being the way it is and unpredictable and blah blah blah, it's the same guy that did Maverick, and Maverick just slaughtered the box office. Whether you like or hate it, I know we know of your love for Glenn, Jose, but whether you hate or love that movie, that slaughtered the box office. And F1, there was no way F1, and I don't say this with ego or anything, there was no way that movie wasn't going to do the same. So, like, this is a horror movie, even though it probably has a bigger budget. You guys probably have those numbers. I didn't write them down. Than the first one. There was no way that it was going to take on that movie and come out victorious.
Sure.
It just wasn't, like,
Yeah.
if they had done it a week where they didn't have the competition, maybe it would have done a little bit better financially.
Yeah, I don't see how this is counter programming to something like that, Brad Pitt, the marketing machine. But I told Kevin from Raiders of the Podcast, I told him I would rather run my testicles over with an electric scooter than go see F1.
Well,
I saw Gran Turismo and it was shit, and I'm not enthused about it. But anyway, tough opinion. I'm gonna go see it.
I'll see it. Jose, that was a fucking listen. I have to interject for a second, and then I promise I'm not going to hijack your show. That you're missing out. That is a fucking fantastic movie, and yes, it's a retread of things we've already seen before, but it's done well. It has its own unique sense of identity. It's phenomenal.
Okay.
With your pass, it doesn't cost anything effectively, other than 2 hours and 35 minutes, which I realize is long. But it's worth
too long. But I was going to say, it was down to either F1 or M3GAN 2.0 in terms of reviewing this weekend. And we chose wrong, as the Holy Grail Knight says in The Last Crusade.
Yeah.
Okay, so my spoiler-free thoughts, and then we're going to get to spoilers for M3GAN 2.0. We talk about comps on this show, so a sequel comparison. I'm going to make a very bold opinion here with this comp. In fact, I have two comps. So the first comp is Batman Returns. And so just like Batman, which was very studio executive kind of thing, Tim Burton's Batman, we got, like with this film, M3GAN, we got the sort of like oversight. It's got to be horror. It's got to be like the killer doll. It's got to be this and that or whatever. But then for Batman Returns, Tim Burton basically got to give us his vision of what a Batman movie should be. And quite honestly, that is, to me, not only is it the best Batman movie, but it's one of the best Tim Burton films because it really shows his style. And so that's the first comp here. Gerard Johnston, if you've seen Housebound, this is basically his American Housebound because there's a lot of plot twisting. There is a lot of characters who turn out to be a completely different kind of character. There are central mysteries that end up turning out the way you don't think that they're going to, and then another plot twist late in the game. And so Gerald Johnston, this is his vision. This is what I think he wanted to make when they hired him to do M3GAN. And it's interesting that James Wan was so taken by Housebound, but then they reeled him in and didn't let him do what he really is known for with Housebound. And so here we get the full Gerald Johnstone vision, and it is a blast. It is something. It is fun. I totally ate all of this up. I loved it. I loved that it opened up the universe, it gave us thrills, it gave us action, and more importantly, it gave us comedy. There is stuff in here that just I could not stop laughing. Sure, sure. Just like in Wild Wild West with Will Smith and Kevin Kline, they break the rules of comedy in that film, and a lot of it falls flat. They do it here. Yeah, that singing thing that you alluded to, Mike, goes on far too long. But you know what? It's fucking awesome. I loved it. The second comp that I was going to make comparison for this sequel is that, you know, in the past, there were times where a movie didn't get a sequel, or something like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the series ended, but they continued in a comic book.
Yeah.
And if M3GAN had continued the concept in a comic book form, a graphic novel, or even a limited series, that's what this sequel is. It's literally the comic book sequel of that film. And so if you look at like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, I never read the comics, but apparently they were even better than the episodes. And then like Alien versus Predator, that continued like in some ways in the comics, and then they had a second film, you know? So that's my other second comparison in terms of this film versus the first film. There is so much in this movie that I absolutely adored, because I have to tell you, the first film, I didn't like it. I think go back and listen to our Watch Skip Plus episode. I was like, this is stupid. It did not lean far enough into the ludicrousness of, you know, the killer doll and the AI theme of too much technology actually hurts us. This one, boy, did they lean into the absurdity, and I'm here for it. I loved this fucking movie. I'm making plans to go see it again, maybe instead of F1.
Oh, come on, man.
I don't know. I don't know what else there is to say here. I don't know what else there is to say here. There's some really inventive sequences here, that are very housebound in some ways.
Okay.
They go Fast and the Furious with this. They even steal a scene from Alita Battle Angel. And so this is totally up my alley, and I loved it. It does go on far too long. It really should have been tightened up. There's one twist too many. And then they try to like go back and be like, is she or isn't she, kind of like Salt. That's one of the reasons why I think Salt didn't quite work. But as you go back and watch Salt with Angelina Jolie, it becomes very clear whose side she's on. But yeah, I'm sorry. It's total watch for me. I don't know why people aren't seeing it. Probably because of Brad Pitt and F1. But, you know, what are you going to do?
It's Jose, it's you. How can you not stare at the god that is Brad Pitt for 2 hours and 35 minutes?
Because I've done it for the last 2 decades.
He's 60 years old, but he still looks fantastic. Come on. It's a great movie. You're missing out.
Anyway, huge watch for me. M3GAN 2.0. Fantastic sequel. You will get whiplash because this goes in a completely different direction, but this is really Gerard Johnston's vision. And you say, just to spice it up, there are 3 fucking layers in this. That's how absurd this whole thing goes. There are 3 layers, folks. Count them. 3 enemy layers or whatever. 3 secret layers. So good. Anyway. Mike is so confused. I thought you were going to love this, Mike. Seriously. I thought you were going to be like, man,
I was too. I thought I was too. I just felt like it was just too silly for its own good. And I just feel like it just doesn't know its audience quite. I don't know where this lands. I felt like he got trapped into the PG-13 because the first one was PG-13. Again, if this would have hit that upgrade, the monkey type of vibe where we would have went a little bit more edgy, I think it would have worked. Instead, it just kind of comes off corny. I mean, how many hold on to your vagina jokes do we need? I mean, I thought at times was funny, but there was like 3 vagina jokes. It was like too many. So
I disagree. It's Johnston's vision, and it is fucking edgy as shit with its comedy. I love it. Loved it. All right, here we go. If you have not seen M3GAN 2.0, we are going to spoil it.
Let's go.
Faster than you can say. Brad Pitt F1 sucks. Just kidding.
Oh my
I'm gonna
God.
see it, John. I'm gonna see it. I'm taking the piss, as Rob would say in Britain. I'm taking the piss because
He's taking a piss.
I'm just a little saucy that people are missing out on M3GAN 2.0. So anyway, we're gonna spoil it. Here we go. All right. So the twist too much that I'm talking about, obviously, is the boyfriend who we are introduced as this sort of like, he also does like cybersecurity and tech or whatever. It turns out that he is behind basically all of this, right? That he is essentially driving the entire plot to get this, robot thing to access like the big cloud and then take over as like an AI or whatever. And it's all a ruse to get her to come out of hiding and reboot up M3GAN and do all of that crazy stuff. That was too much. Like, it comes so far late in the game and it's so obvious that I was just like, okay, you had me with all the craziness, right? What did you think about that last minute twist with the boyfriend, Michael Jackson? John?
I know. Listen, we're like, you guys are both like completely. You love it. I can see you. So you're a soft skip. I'm somewhere in the middle area there. Like, I would say if you have a pass, go out and watch it. There's worse ways to kill brain cells. I think it's an enjoyable film. But on the same token, you're right. Like, that twist specifically, I just felt like they just kept on pushing the twist a little bit too much. Like, oh, and now another twist, and now another. And it's just like, all right, why? Like, you get to a certain point, you don't need that many. Or if you're going to have that many, really make sure you have such a tight screenplay that it really works. And see, again, I know I keep on bringing up Housebound, so I apologize. But Housebound has a bunch of twists, and it still works. It works amazingly. This does suffer from that.
But I think this film has Housebound's sensibilities in terms of its somewhat complicated plot, but then also just the way things are sort of done. Like, that whole house sequence where M3GAN takes over the smart home and uses it to defend them. That was brilliant. That was fun. That was pretty fucking cool.
No, it definitely has like a lot of strong points, this movie. That's why I say, like, I'm not like a skip on this movie, and I'm not in love with this movie. I'm in the middle area there, because there are a lot of enjoyable moments in this movie. But let's face it, there are some points where it's like, okay, well, maybe if you had just trimmed back just a little bit, you would have had, like you were saying, like a tighter movie. And you would have had maybe an overall better experience. But I still think it's worth watching. And I think if you like the first one, you're probably going to like this one. Yes, I would have liked to seen a lot more blood thrown in. But then again, I just like horror movies with blood. And let's face it, I think the audience for this demographic, although some teenagers don't mind the old school horror, I think there are some that are still a little bit intrepidatious when it comes to old school horror and blood and gore, and they want a different type of horror. And I feel like that different type of horror is maybe a slightly toned down horror. And I think that's what maybe the audience was. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like that's what the audience was for this film. People that don't want horror that's extreme horror, something that's toned down that they can digest and say, oh, that was a fun experience, but not something where they're going to be like traumatized afterward. You know what I mean? I don't know.
But let's talk about Jermaine Clement's role in this. Mike, how did you, clearly Clement is very much like, first of all, he comes in this wheelchair thing.
His Dr. X wheelchair.
Like he looks like Professor X from X-Men, right?
X,
and he's like rolling around and he's like knocking shit off the table.
He's funny. He was hilarious.
Clearly he's modeled after like Elon Musk, because we start to realize that he's a billionaire. He's got his fingers in things. He owns like this cloud that he's been like bankrolling data and storing everything in the cloud.
Mm-hmm.
And so the second MacGuffin, because there's a ton of MacGuffins in this, is that Amelia is trying to get access to his server, which has the cloud, which is the next step in her linchpin of like trying to take over the world and kill the humans or whatever. I'm sure this is where your kids were like, this is cringy. He has the one scene where he's like, hello, folks, I'm here to take over the world, but let's dance first. And then he's like dancing. And then the other, I'm sure, cringe is he's got that lair, the sort of Me Too lair, where he's sitting with her and then it spins into this thing and there's music, there's a round bed, and then it's makeup, isn't it? He opens his chest and there's like a prosthetic, like six-pack abs and stuff like that.
It's hilarious.
But I know you thought it was kind of cringy, but I was laughing my ass off that entire sequence.
Yeah.
And then he's like, what happened? He throws her on the bed or something and he's like, oh, too much something, too much, please stop, or whatever. I mean, he's clearly a ninny and he has all this money. But what did you think about that role and his sequence in that? What did you think?
I thought he was great. He's so good at like just coming in and doing this kind of absurdist stuff. Like we've seen him recently in Minecraft. He comes in and just boom, he lightens the screen every time he shows up. He does this where he just comes in and does this little bit role, and he just elevates the moment, and he brought the comedy in. I felt like he worked, and I wanted to see more like people get killed in similar ways. Like, speaking of Tim Sharp's character, who's probably the worst actor and has the worst role in the movie, when he gets his comeuppance, I wanted it to be even worse. But it was the same way. I was come on, let's go over the top with this FBI agent. I want him dead. And when he did die, I jumped up and I was like, yes, I hate that son of a bitch.
So Tim Sharp. I remember him from a Mike White show called Enlightenment, where he played a complete fucking douchebag. But yeah, I just thought that the FBI character was hysterical. Yet again, another hyperbolic character or whatever.
That's so poorly written. What
did you think about John? What did you think about Jermaine Clements' sort of role in this?
He's great at playing any type of role, but he's always good. I can't think of anything on top of my head, but I know he's played another character like this, not to this degree, but like the typical, like arrogant, like, look at me, I'm the superior, you know what I mean? Like he's played that type of role before, and he was fantastic. I mean, he just brings it. Because, like you said, he plays the absurdist characters. He plays them so well. I think Gentleman Broncos is probably another example where he plays like a real, up absurdist character, and he's so ridiculous that you can't help but laugh the minute he steps on the screen. You know what I mean? And then when he finally gets his death, because he's such an obnoxious character, you're like, yes,
it's fun.
Yeah, he's so committed though, but just watching him and his devotion to creating this character, but then comparing it to the boyfriend, that actor, like, I don't know. It felt like amateur hour when he was trying to do the same kind of shtick when it's revealed that he's the guy pulling the strings and stuff.
So that was the worst twist. Really? you loved the movie. Did you like that twist at all?
No, not particularly. I didn't think they needed it, but in a way it just sort of, I don't know, it just kind of showed that like, Allison Williams's character can't really date in that kind of space, right? It was oddly weird. It almost made her kind of incel-y in some ways, right?
Yeah.
Like she can't find a good man because the man is always going to try to one up her in either tech or like take over. You know what I mean? But yeah, just his acting in that scene where he's doing the talking villain thing, it was like, oh, dude, we just had Jermaine Clement and you couldn't even bring the thunder, like, Speaking of, let's talk about those M3GAN moments. We get a dance moment with M3GAN.
That's fun.
I kind of dug that. I was hoping she'd do a little more like traditional type hip hop dancing, but yeah, that was great. And then the other, which I'm sure is going to be talked about, I think they could have cut this scene, quite honestly, but there is a heart-to-heart scene between Allison Williams and M3GAN, and they're talking about how, who's the better guardian for Katie or whatever. And then she busts into This Women's Work by Kate Bush. What, Mike, I need to know what you were thinking when you saw that, when that happened.
For me, I don't know. Right at that scene, right when the singing started, my oldest too, I was battling he was so bored. He got up and goes, "Oh my, oh, this is cringe alert," and just grabbed his phone and left and disappeared for 15 minutes. It just, boom, it slaps you. I get it's trying to throw back to the first scene, which is fun. The first movie I got to go back to. The first movie is a dark comedic bliss. Unlike you, I find its darkly comedic twists to be funny. It's more of a dark comedy with horror elements. And I loved that about it. I thought that the humor worked more in that. It earned its laughs. This is just like, hey, we're funny. We're funny. We're being silly. This is over the top. This is like B movie, corny 80s, silliness. Come on. This is every Terminator rehash that we all got direct to video in the 80s. This is Manborg. This is all this stuff you should
Mission
be laughing
Impossible,
right now.
it's all that crazy shit. Yeah.
And it's not, but I wish we got more Mission Impossible. I wish they made it more of an action film, but it tries to be a comedy. It tries to be like, I don't know, like Hatchet. The Hatchet movies get more and more silly and comedic. This is what I felt like.
I hate those.
It gets way too silly, way too dumb, way too corny. They have to pull that stuff back. But there are moments, like you said, that part works because it was sly, it was funny, and then that bit with where she puts the freaking face or hand to the mouth, and just like, that's enough, boom, and shuts her off. At that point, it was funny. Then she pulls off her little kill switch. It's like, okay, we're done. Go
but it does go on too long. I was like, are they gonna end this? Like, my audience was digging it though. Like, I dug it. What, John? What did you think about that scene where she sings the Kate Bush song? By the way, I knew the lyrics, so I was singing along too.
You were singing along.
Go ahead.
No, I mean, it definitely could have been trimmed down a little. That's for sure. I mean, I didn't have that much of a problem with it, but but I can definitely understand where you're coming from as far as they probably could have trimmed a little bit. This movie definitely could have been a 90-minute movie, and I think that would have been the sweet spot. Probably would have held the audience's attention, and I think you would have had an overall better experience personally. But then again, just in general, like when it comes to horror movies, very rarely do I see a horror movie that hits the 2-hour mark and beyond where I feel like it's justified, just because on the very basis of what a horror movie is, you usually don't need that much time to tell the story that you're going to tell within the construct of a horror film, generally speaking. There are always exceptions, but usually,
unless you're something completely different, like a comic book continuation. What did we think about that tag where, haha, M3GAN makes the ultimate sacrifice as a guardian to let them live, and then she crops up as that annoying like paperclip in Microsoft Word. What did you guys think of that tag?
Yeah, no, that was definitely fun.
Yeah, it was kind of cute. All right, the bottom line question though, do you want to see another M3GAN sequel, John?
So like I said, I was in between where you guys are. I didn't love the film. I didn't hate the film. I think if they can trim it down to an hour and a half, they can give us a film with a little more blood, and they can just give us a tight script. I think there's still potential to make something else. I just think they just got to make sure they think about what they're making. Like you mentioned, Mike, they probably need to do a couple more passes on the screenplay. Keep the budget low. And for fuck's sake, do not put it out when you know it's going to go up against the film that's going to take all the money. You know what I mean? Like, there's a time.
Sometimes you just can't help scheduling. You really can't.
But if you dump, let's say, I don't know what the budget is. You guys have, I don't have my phone up, but let's say the budget's $60 million. You put $60 million in to making the movie. Then you put, Brad and Troy talk about this all the time on their show. You put probably another $60 million to market the film. How can you be dumb enough not to make the priority, even if it's pushing it back? Like if you have to push it back, when you have that kind of money in the line, why wouldn't you do that? It doesn't make any sense. I don't know.
It's a $25 million budget.
First was 12, so they doubled the budget. 12 million first, 25 million second.
Yeah, so I mean, that was $25 million. Does that include the marketing, or is that the total?
So some say it goes up to 36 when you put in P&R.
Marketing.
Yeah, marketing. So
yeah, but again, like fucking wait. If you feel like you have to put your film out, wait a couple months later. I mean, let's face it. There's so many months of the year where their dead months. That's where they release these god awful films.
Yeah.
Put it in one of those months where you have no competition. That way you have a chance.
And if we do get another film, I want them to have fun with it, but I also want him to kind of make a tonal choice. If we're going to have more silly fun, just make that the choice. Just go all in on it, and just like Jon said, give us a tight script, make the jokes work, take the time on it. Give us an Army of Darkness, a quick 80-minute fun slice of comedy horror that works. I mean, that's what you're thinking of. Army of Darkness compared to the Evil Dead sequels, completely change of tone. Some people that doesn't work for. That worked for me. This could have been that if it would have been a tighter product overall. It's not that I didn't enjoy the twists and turns. Like, give us more fun. Just tighten it up, cut the fat, and really just commit to your vision. While yes, I can see his vision, like you were saying, but it's like he needed a little bit help in the editing and in the writing, just to cut the fat, tune into what he really wants to do here. But some of this action, if you're going to have these action scenes, they should have just pulled it back, because I did enjoy the final fight, and I wanted to see a big fight with what's her name's character with that suit on, with Allison Williams' character with the suit, and then M3GAN and Amelia all fighting together. That would have been fun, but it's just like they just pull back, right?
They kind of went
ready to have it.
They kind of went upgrade with it, because Williams gets knocked out, but she still has the exoskeleton on.
I did like that part.
That was pretty fucking awesome. I love that.
Wanted more of that. More of that.
Yeah. Mike, I think you were very, very disappointed that there wasn't gore and that there wasn't horror. My question to you is, both of you actually, is, can this series go back to its horror roots? Now, if you think about it, like Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, okay, they made a conscious decision to go away from sort of the crazy mythology and where it went and the quipping, and they went back, with Nightmare on Elm Street, it was The New Nightmare by Wes Craven. With Halloween, they rebooted it, and then David Gordon Green fucked it all up. Sorry. So my question to you, both of you, is, can this franchise go back to its horror roots after it's gone this far? Jon, what do you think?
Yeah, sure. I mean, you just got to have the commitment to get some good writers in the room. You have a good filmmaker, get some good writers in the move and go for it. And like you pointed out, the bloated budget of F1, because obviously to make a film like that, you have to have that kind of money. Like, you have to, you really do. But like something like this, if you can do it for $36 million and still come out ahead, you can still do that with an R rating. I think the reason they don't want to do the R rating is because they feel like that's going to cut some of the audience, because some parents are still, stringent about letting their kids watch R-rated films. I mean, my parents said, hey, it's a movie, it's make believe. As long as you're not going to like come crying to us in the middle of the night having nightmares, go ahead, watch the rated R movie. You know what I mean? And it's a generational difference. I think nowadays parents are a little more concerned about that stuff. So at the end of the day, it all boils down to money, R rating versus PG-13 rating. Let go of that and realize that there are some people that want this. And if you put the R rating up, you're still going to get an audience and you're good to go. I don't know.
Mike, what do you think?
I go back to the AVP, Alien versus Predator, released the PG-13 neutered film that did continue, as you said, in comic book form. But the sequel, it doesn't work on a technical aspect. I think the cinematography, there's some aspects of that doesn't work, but the concept of it as like Monster Squad versus Predator, the very first scene in the Alien versus Predator sequel is kids getting killed by a predator. So, I mean, they can do it if they want to. Of course, that film has technical flaws that I think you have to brighten your TV to really make it work. But if you do, it's a fun movie.
I love you watch your mouth about the Strauser brothers. I love that.
I do enjoy the film.
They also did Skyline. They're a special effects
technically guys. That movie just, it needed to be brightened and lightened up. It is too dark as it is, and you have to lighten your TV up to watch it. But it is a lot of fun, and I actually like it more than the first Alien versus Predator. So yes, you can go back to that. You can go back to more thrills. And if you get your hands on the R-rated version of M3GAN with the F words and the little bits of gore added back in, it does work as a gory bit of dark humor, like Upgrade, like we've talked about, like Malignant. It works in that way. But as of right now, trying to make this a feminist getting women out to the theater, which is what the marketing was. This is trying to become a thing for women to go out, and the whole Britney bitch, grab me by the vagina. The marketing was for women, and they're not getting out to the
by the
theater.
vagina. That is not the tagline, Mike. It has not gotten me by the vagina.
He said hold their vaginas or whatever.
Although I think that should be the tagline for our podcast. You know, check out Watch Skip Plus. We got you by the vagina. Sorry.
I love
my God, got you by the
it.
vagina. I love it. It's fantastic.
Got you by the vagina, you'll grab them by the feet. We got it wherever they need to be grabbed.
Hey, John, what body part do you have dibs on? Anyway, okay, so I think we've Meganed out ourselves.
Yes, we Meganed out.
So final verdicts. It's a big watch for me. To use a phrase we love on this podcast, I had a blast with this. It was fun. John, your rating?
Yeah, no, I definitely give it. I will not say it's as big as watch as you, but I will say it's a watch. I definitely think it's worth watching.
Got it. And Mike?
Soft skip.
Got it. Okay. Awesome. So we got some pluses. I'm going to defer again. Mike, I probably owe you. I'll probably just do 2 pluses next time. But Mike, what is your plus? Because I'm dying to hear.
So going to the summer of live music, last night we went, me and my family, my wife and me and 3 of my kids went and saw Modest Mouse at there's a town about 40 minutes north of us called Ogden. It's an old historic town north of Salt Lake, and they do a Twilight concert series, they call it, at one of their beautiful little amphitheaters, and they do such a good job. They've created this awesome festival, which I've seen other great bands, indie bands like Flaming Lips. You can see my shirt. I got this when I saw Flaming Lips there. And Modest Mouse is a band that started in the 90s. They're very much Northwest emo, emotional indie rock with a little janky, crazy, hot, like hooting and stomping and punk rock. They're just such a cool band. But my wife and I, this is our second marriage, and Modest Mouse started with our first marriages, where we both got into them in the early 2000s with our previous spouses. And we ended up seeing them together for the first time right when we started dating 15 years ago. It was like our second concert that we ever went to. And it was just a great memory. And they came back to town at a right time where we were able to get tickets. It was on a Saturday, so I bought a bunch of them. And they were only like $25-$30 after fees. So I bought like 5 or 6 for as many kids as we could to come. And we just had a blast. The band Modest Mouse started in 1993 in Azaka, Washington. Basically the only person who's still in the band from the creation is Isaac Brock. It's kind of his beast. Drummer Jeremiah Green, rest in peace. He died of cancer back in 2022. But they were really the heart and soul, and he's passed away, and Isaac's gotten sober. His career has kind of gone up and down, and they used to be known as a great like album band, but not great live, because Isaac was dealing with a lot of depression, a lot of alcohol issues. They basically released a couple albums in the 90s, and then by the time 2004 hit, they hit their 4th album, which became a huge hit, and that was called Good News for People Who Love Bad News. Had their only big hit called Float On, which blew them up. And you know what happens when you get huge, you get into drugs and alcohol. And they hit a period where he just kind of was sloppy live, and they were kind of known as a band that sounds great, you know, everywhere but live. But he's really kicked the habits. He looked great. The band sounded so fucking good. He put together the right sound, the right people. He's just put some great talent together. It was a tight 6-piece. They had 2 drummers, 2 guitarists, a bassist, and then someone on keys last night. And their set list went for a complete 30-year retrospective all the way back to 93 with their first project, all the way to their last one in 2022. And it was a great set list. I mean, they play, like I talked about Block Party, these guys play a different set list every night. I mean, Isaac basically prepares anywhere from 50 to 70 songs a tour, and they just kind of go with it. The band follows him, and sobriety has really worked in his favor, and he just looked and sounded amazing. So if you
nice.
if you're a Modest Mouse fan and you've gone and seen them live in the past and thought that they were sloppy, or you've heard the rumors that they aren't good live, go to see this new iteration if you get a chance to see them. The lead singer of Built to Spill, he actually opened up for them, which he was fine. Wish I would have had the entirety of Built to Spill there, which is a jam band from the 90s, actually inspired Modest Mouse. I think they started in the 80s. So they actually inspired, Isaac Brock to start Modest Mouse, very indie, clinky style of rock. But what a wonderful show. My wife got emotional. She remembers listening to Modest Mouse during her divorce, and how her and her kids, before we met, they got really emotionally involved with that music. And we just had a kind of a come together moment live at the amphitheater in Ogden. Congrats, Isaac Brock, for getting sober. Congrats, Modest Mouse, for putting together a great tour. And if you're a fan, or even if you're not, go out and see this band live. If you like good music, see them live. I can't say enough about Modest Mouse. 7 albums all together, a bunch of EPs, bunch of stuff. But my love for them really starts from their 3rd album, 4th and 5th and 6th album. Their last 2 are okay, and their first albums kind of have more of a emo 90s early emo vibe. But yeah, get your ears on them if you haven't heard them, and go see them live. That Modest Mouse. Yep.
The lead guitarist Simon O'Connor is gorgeous. Sorry.
They're a great band.
Go ahead, John.
I'm jealous, dude, because A, they're an amazing band, and B, we don't have $25 30 tickets here in Jersey. I can tell you that much. They're more like 75 and up if you're lucky. So that's awesome, dude.
How long have you been listening to Modest Mouse, John?
I want to say probably, I didn't catch them when they first came out. I probably caught on to them probably like in the early 2000s. Okay. And just fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Yeah. So
that's awesome. Over to you, John. What's your plus?
So I don't normally do like restaurants, but I think this one's pretty amazing. It's a local one here in Jersey. And what's interesting about it, it's a nonprofit restaurant. It's actually by Jon Bon Jovi and his wife. It's called the JBJ Soul Kitchen. Him and his wife Dorothy started this in 2011, and the mission was to help those in need, like basically people that are hungry, homeless. They established the first one in 2011 in Red Bank. For people that visited New Jersey, some people go to Red Bank just because if you're a comic book nerd, that's where Kevin Smith has one of his comic book shops, Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash. Yeah. So a lot of people will go down there. So they started this in 2011, and basically it was an idea of bringing the community closer together. And the model of the restaurant is it's a pay what you can model. They have a suggested price for like $12. Now with that $12, you can get like a soup or a salad, and then of course you have the main course, a drink, and a dessert. But if you can't for some reason afford that, like if you're homeless, or let's just say you're down on your luck and you're running low on money, you can also volunteer to work for a couple hours. And that's what's cool is because they're a nonprofit, it's completely run on volunteers. And I live in Toms River, New Jersey, not too far from the shore. They opened up a location right around the corner from my house. So now currently they have 5 different locations throughout New Jersey. And the message really is all about just giving back and helping people. I'm actually going to try to find some time, because in the summertime, like volunteer like once like every 2 weeks or so, just for a couple hours, just to kind of help out. Because I mean, I don't know about you guys, but in New Jersey, homelessness is a big problem. I mean, throughout the country, there's 47.4 million people that are food insecure, people that are going without food. And it says 12.2 million are adults, 7.2 million are kids. And then you have over 50 million people that are turning to assistance programs like SNAP and stuff like that. So, with the economy the way it is, something like this is just, I think, wonderful. Number one, even if you have the money, like just to go out, it's a cheap way to eat dinner or lunch and help a great cause. Or if you have a little extra time in your help, if you can give back to someone else that's in need, because there's so many different people that are struggling. It's one thing to be late with your bills. It's another thing to not be able to do the basic thing like eat. You know what I mean? So, we give celebrities a lot of shit. as a society, and like say some of them are like blah 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 blah, and they're doing it for PR and all that bullshit. But then you hear something like this. These guys started in 2011. They have 5 different locations, and they really just care about making a difference. So if you're in Jersey, Google JBJ Kitchen, Soul Kitchen. Definitely, it's an awesome thing. So that's my big plot.
That is great. First of all,
awesome.
I love Jon Bon Jovi.
Me too.
Obvious reasons and music. As you mentioned, he and his wife founded the Jon Bon Jovi Soul Foundation. But you can also go to that website, JBJ Soul Kitchen, and you can donate to something called Chance for Change, which the tagline is real help for the homeless. And that's in conjunction with the JBJ Soul Foundation, Collaborative Support Programs of New Jersey, Volunteers of America, Delaware Valley. So you can donate. You can actually go online. I'm looking at their menu. They change their menu weekly, apparently. We've got appetizers like watermelon gazpacho, blackberry and peach summer salad. And then you've got main courses like Mongolian beef and vegetables, or soul seasoning beef tacos that are kid friendly. And then you've got desserts like Chef's Choice, so it's a surprise, and then fruit cups, and it'll list its hours. And as you said, there is a location in Toms River. My friend's from Toms River, actually, who I went to college with, Rika. And then the other location is Red Bank. So very nice, excellent plus. Thank you so much.
Great plus.
If you guys ever make your way to Jersey, and most people avoid Jersey, but if you end up ever hanging out in Jersey, let me know. I'll treat you guys all to lunch. We'll check it out for sure.
Heck yeah.
We love New Jersey. Brian Stevens is from New Jersey. So,
nice.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
Awesome.
Jon, what do you have coming up on? And now for something a little bit different.
I got a bunch of these characters coming on in another hour with Jose, and we're going to be talking about another Jeff Bridges film. So we can't wait for that. We're going to be talking about a movie that you picked from 1993. Was it, Jose? I want to say.
I think it's 93. I think you're right. Yeah.
Fearless. So I can't wait to talk about that. And
yes, directed by Peter Weir.
We just finished a month of, because no one talks about my man Stephen Dorff enough, and I feel like Stephen Dorff has done some pretty good independent films and a handful of mainstream films, but his niche, I think, is independent films. Like you think about Cecil B. Demented and all these wonderful little indie films that he's done, and I think he's a really good actor personally.
He is
on Righteous Gemstones seasons 3 and 4, and he has a small part, but he's great in the part.
He had his own TV show at one point too, which was quite good. But it got canceled.
Oh, what the fuck, man?
It's called Deputy. It was called Deputy. It was on Fox, 13 episodes.
Nice.
But he's also cropped up in True Detective. He's even done Full Frontal Nudity, folks. So, Steve Dorff, great actor.
Always lead with that, Jose. I know.
Sure.
Your botched episode was really good, Jon, by the way. I loved your guys's. Yeah, Botched is a great flick. I'm so glad you were able to talk about it. Talk about a horror comedy that really works. That's fun. And it does mix some of that action stuff in there.
Yeah, no, I love that movie. I absolutely adore it. No one talks about it either. So
it's fun.
Yeah, so we just finished a month of Dorff. We're doing Fearless with you. And then we got a summer theme where we're going to be talking 2 movies from the 80s. We're going to be talking about 3 O'Clock High, which is Phil Johanna, and no one talks about that movie. And then this next one's weird because like people in our film groups talk about this next one, but no one, like if you were to talk about your neighbor about films or an average person, The Last American Virgin, nobody talks about The Last American Virgin outside of film circles. And that movie, I think, is like the comparison I always make is to Fast Times at Ridgemont High. If you look at the parallels between those movies, but where the parallel stops, and I don't want to give too much of my thoughts away, is that there's a very clear distinction on how Fast Time wraps up the movie versus how Last American Virgin wraps up the movie. So that was pretty much what we have lined up for the next month. So we're excited. And of course, in July, we'll be talking another Jeff Bridges film. I just don't know which one yet.
Dude, 3 O'Clock High literally was filmed in Ogden, right where I was last night.
Really?
Literally filmed in Ogden High School. It's very much Utah.
Coincidence. Yeah. So that's awesome, dude. Yeah, so that's what we got lined up.
3 O'Clock High, interestingly enough, cinematographer is Barry Sonnenfeld, who ended up becoming a director on his own.
Yeah.
By the way, he trained in porn, going back to penises. He trained to be a DP doing porn. Yeah.
I
But
can't
that
wait
was-
for this episode. That's awesome.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So if you love us, please make sure you leave a review, or you click like, you click subscribe, you do all the button things. But you would also love our Podfathers Gentleman's Guide to Midnight Cinema and Not a Bomb. Not a Bomb just put out Red Sonja, so I've got to definitely jump on that one. I love that movie. I don't care what anybody says. I would have liked a little more breakdancing from Ernie Reyes Jr., but whatever. It is what it is. You'll also love Night of the Living Podcast, Wild Dream Podcast, Death by DVD, Raiders of the Podcast, Backlook Cinema Podcast. We've already mentioned our YouTube brother, John, and now for something a little bit different. Also with another John. There's two Johns.
Mr. John Lance, or otherwise known as Mr. Korean Cool, is what we like to call him.
Yes, or as I butchered that nickname, Korean Rambo, for whatever stupid reason I said that. I don't know why. And then Caliber 9 from Outer Space. Rob was on our last episode 28 years later. Yep. That was amazing.
I've got to shout those guys out. Caliber 9, I'm actually going, by the time this is out, you'll have a new episode of them with me on it. We're doing a silly Sundance, and gosh, going back to Dorf, we're doing Space Truckers, which premiered at Sundance.
Nice.
And we're doing Mike Mendez Convent. So we're doing some silly Sundance premieres that really fits within their kind of fun cult vibe. Awesome. So by the time you are watching this, you can also go over to Caliber 9 and watch me talk about those. So,
dude, I'm so excited that you guys had Rob on, because I started about a year ago. I went on Rob's show for the first time. Joe couldn't make it that particular day, and then since then I've been on them. They've been on mine, and they're both such great guys, dude. Such a great show. So I'm glad you guys were able to have Rob on, because he's one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. So
smart too.
I love Rob. Oh my God,
he is smart.
Let me tell you, his take on 28 years later, very, very cool. Oh, so much so that as I was editing that episode, Mike, I realized we were talking over you. we were just
okay.
Whatever.
That's okay.
But as many will discover, since I just released the episode this morning, Mike had a blown transformer and was shook, because literally while we were recording, the transformer down the street from you exploded, Mike, and then your power went out, and then you had to join from your phone, and you were like shaking, and it was,
oh my God,
crazy. Also, you would love Feminine Critique and then Talk Without Rhythm with Goro. Mike, parting thoughts. Thank God, no blown transformer this time. Parting thoughts.
Enjoy the summer. Get out there, live exhibition. Go see people perform live. Go see theater. Go see plays. Get to the movies. Have fun and enjoy yourself, and stay cool, folks.
Yes, hydrate. And as always, be kind, be open, be vulnerable. That's where the art is. And we'll see you next week, where I'll crash F1 even more.
Great weekend, guys. Take care.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, Joe Kaczynski and Brad Pitt.
Oh, man. That's it.
That's it. He's never coming back. Never coming.
I